Hello everyone, I hope you're all doing very well. For today's valued viewer requested question, we've got, wait for it, Nathan Smith. Viewer question, what's the lowest altitude you can survive ejecting at if you're flying inverted? So if you're upside down, your canopy is pointing downwards. First thought, it kind of seems a bit stupid and childish. Actually, it's quite an important point. We've got a couple of videos and we've got anecdotal evidence. I remember my cousin's boyfriend of the time, was a tornado pilot. And we were always told the family fable was that he was flying upside down in his tornado and he fell out of a tornado and landed and survived upside down when it was low. Now, obviously, they didn't mean he just fell out. They would have meant, presumably, is that he had ejected while inverted at relatively low altitude and survived, although he did break several bones. So that's just a kind of personal fable I have. Also, we've got a couple of videos here of low altitude crashes. Let's just have a quick look.
And down it went.
Low altitude crash there. You can see the parachute's barely opened and he thumps the ground, and God knows how he survived, but apparently he did. One interesting thing there that may or may not have any bearing on what we tried today is that the ejection seats in a modern fighter aircraft don't just punch out, kind of, if you like, the lift vector of the aircraft. They don't punch out and just fly that way. They actually adjust themselves. I don't know how they do it, but they adjust themselves so that they push you away from the ground. So they push you out of the plane, clear of the plane, then another jet booster or something, rocket booster will push it upwards. Whether that shows here, I'm not sure. Probably a bad example there. But he survived from just, separation, not long after separation. It was only maybe 300 feet, 400 feet heading down. We've also got this MKI. I'm sure you've all seen this stuff before.
Су-30 МКИ задевает хвостовой частью землю. Возникает пожар, но самолет продолжает управляемый.
Not quite inverted, but not a difficult angle there. And look at that. Look how it doesn't. Something pushes him away from the plane. The first rocket pushes him away from the plane. Then this one fires because it knows his attitude and pushes him upwards away from the ground. How clever is that? Are we going to see that today? Absolutely no idea. I doubt DCS. Oh look, there's another guy. I doubt DCS is modeled like that. But it's just interesting things to bear in mind. It just gives him a few extra, milliseconds to get away. And because of that directional thrust, they've survived. I doubt they would have survived otherwise.
I did hear once that all Russian ejection seats were clockwork and that they've never failed because of it, whereas electronically fired ejection seats have failed in the past because the batteries were disconnected or flat or whatever, but the Russians did theirs on clockwork and they've never failed. Apparently, that's what I was told. But
as the pilot pulls the ejection cord, an electrical pulse shatters his canopy. To avoid serious injury as he exits the plane, his body must be in the correct position. The seat automatically straps him in. It happens in the blink of an eye.
The pilot's legs are lifted up.
Why?
The arm restriction system is activated. Then the weight straps are automatically tightened. The pilot is thus locked in his seat.
This sequence takes just 1/3 of a second. Over the next 1/12 of a second, the ejection seat automatically prepares itself and the pilot for ejection.
How does that?
It is during these milliseconds that the unique pilot protection mechanisms built into the K-36 begin to work.
oh, there's the incident I was on about.
As the seat moves along the rails, gases automatically engage the protective deflector, which opens up to protect the pilot from the air pressure.
Look at that. These seats are amazing.
The wind deflector protects the pilot's body from the enormous wind speed he will encounter as he leaves the cockpit, ejecting at 300 miles per hour. But there is no time to think, as almost simultaneously, the powder rocket engine engages. The MiG pilot has now reached the most dangerous part of the ejection process. The rocket propulsion system fires the seat out of the plane. The rocket acts like a cannon shell exploding under the seat. At this stage, they will be subjected to tremendous forces, pulling anything up to 12 G. As the seat leaves the cockpit, 2 telescopic booms are deployed.
Look at that.
These booms ensure the seat stays in the correct position. Without them, the seat would spin uncontrollably. By now, after 1 second, the cockpit canopy has shattered and disappeared. The pilot has been strapped in, his seat fired high into the air, and the seat stabilizer booms deployed. Now an altimeter in the seat detects if the pilot is at a safe enough height to release the parachute. At anything over 5,000 meters, the pilot wouldn't be able to breathe the thin air. The seat will allow him to free fall until he reaches a safe height.
Once the ejection seat has obtained maximum height, the parachute is then deployed. The seat detaches itself by means of a shoulder, waist and leg strap cutting mechanism.
We hope it
Several
attaches
knives
itself.
around the seat sever the straps, releasing the pilot. The parachute blasts out and the pilot is on his way. The whole process has taken less than 3 seconds.
Well, let's go and jump in a plane and see how high we have to be to survive. I doubt the plane is going to make any difference. Regards injection seats and DCS, I imagine they're all going to be the same when they're passed over to ED from the actual module, if you know what I mean. I'm going to try 1,000 feet AGL first. Right, let's wait. And 1,000. Ooh. No problem. Let's go to 800. So as you can see, you see pretty clearly that they get pushed away from the jet, but no realistic rocket motors fire like they do in real life. They just get pushed from the jet, and then the seat comes off at a certain altitude. So 800 feet is fine. Let's go for 600. Okay, we've caught it there. So the first thing that happens is the canopy has little rockets that fired off and it's blasted off, which is cool. Then these guys, I think in real life they're phased. So pilot goes out and then Rio goes out. Let's see what happens in this. I've got no way of really slowing it down as far as I'm aware. So I'm just going to kind of... See, there's been a fair old delay already. Be interesting how many milliseconds we've got. Then at this point they are ejected. And they're not ejected realistically. They just kind of become a separate entity. You know, it's a video game. That's just how it's gonna be. Seats are still with them. Interestingly, you see they've got the smoke coming off them. So something's, you know, some sort of rocket motor has been simulated. See there. You see they've got obviously they're draggy compared to the plane, so they're slowing down. Now the problem is, are their parachutes going? Oh look, my other guys are still there. That's quite interesting. And their parachute coming out now from the actual pilot, I believe that is, rather than the seat. I believe there is a... Actually, I don't know. I don't know what I'm talking about, so I'm just going to be quiet. I think there's a separate parachute on the seat to the pilot, depending on the altitude of it being punched out. These guys aren't going to survive, look, clearly. Because we're tracking the speed of our guys. Our guys are doing true speed of 203 knots. So I'm afraid to say, guys...
What have you done to those poor people?
That's got to be a thumbnail.
That's science, guys. That's science. They don't mind. They don't mind. Right, ready?
Their thumbnail.
Oh, in the face! In the face! So they've hit the ground at 196 knots. Even the Super Cap couldn't survive that, guys. I know you want them to be alive. I know you do. But... So I already did that one just to get a close look at the system, how the procedure works. So let's try that again. As the stream says, don't feel sorry for them. This is what they signed up for in the Grim Reapers. Don't expect any better treatment than this. Those two guys survived.
They're just a number.
They are just a number. I like you are to me, Chopsticks. 600 again. 800. 700. 600. Oh, survived that time. Look, this time I did at 600, a bit better, and we did survive. So you can kind of see there, we've got another 50 feet to play with.
Right, down to 8 knots now.
550 feet. 700. 550. Ah! Dead.
I found out a little bit about that ejection seat minimums. It says the Russian one here. It says the MPP Zvezda K-36 was demonstrated at Fairford Air Show in 1993 when 2 pilots of MiG-29 fighters ejected after a mid-air collision.
Yeah, I remember that.
The minimal ejection altitude for the Aces 2-seat in inverted flight is 140 feet above the ground at 150 knots, while the Russian counterpart, the K-36DM, has a minimal ejection altitude from inverted flight of 100 feet. Pilots have successfully ejected from underwater in a handful of instances too, after being forced to ditch in water. Documented evidence exists that pilots of the US and Indian navies have performed this feat.
Roger. I finally got it, guys. Look at that. We are not getting any better than that there. That was 550 feet. Oh! Come on, get up, boys. Get up, boys. Yeah! Right, so RT was telling you about the Russian seat that I can't pronounce. We've got these seats here. I'm pretty sure that we're all going to have the same seat in DCS. I stand to be corrected, but I imagine that's...
They might be Martin Baker types.
Roger, I doubt they would model different ones for different planes once they had left the plane. And it turns out inverted was the original question. It was 550 feet, as you can see, was the absolute minimum that you can do and survive depending on the current attitude sink rate of your aircraft, because obviously there's a delay of several milliseconds before it actually punches out, which is interesting. Just see where this F-14 ends up, because I'm actually quite...
As of the 20th of June 2011, the number of lives saved by the Martin Baker products was 7,402 across 93 air forces.
That's amazing.
And the company runs a club called the Ejection Club that gives survivors a unique tie and lapel pin.
No one wants that.
In space.
What's going on with this F-14, RT? It's inverted with no power on, and it's just flown up. Something weird with this module. It's just gone to space. Well, I was going to come down finally.
I was going to say, is it under power?
Yeah, but only about 20% throttle and inverted, and it just, as soon as I ejected, the force of the pilot pushing out of it just pushed it up. I've never seen anything like it.
Oh, it'll eventually come down because of the lift on the wings upside down.
We say that, aren't it? It looks like it's going up again. Heat blow!
Of course, it depends on where you left the stick. Oh, it's going round in circles.
That's really interesting. Right, guys, that was a weird day. So 550 is official. You've heard the Russian, I can't pronounce it. Anything anyone else wants to mention on obscene ejection parameters? You can pretty much assume this is just going to go forever without the weight of the 10 tons of pilot that have now ejected. Hope you enjoyed that.
That's got to be the best Grim Reaper's ejection we've ever seen.
That's pretty sexy. I'm not going to lie. That is SEX written all over it, guys.